10 tons of steel and iron serve as the raw foundation for a transformation that bridges the gap between industrial logistics and custom automotive engineering. Engineers and specialized workshops dismantle heavy-duty cargo carriers to reconstruct them into oversized pickups that retain the mechanical soul of a semi-truck while adopting the aggressive profile of a dragster. The process involves a radical reassessment of scale and performance. Why would anyone invest thousands of hours to convert a massive commercial hauler into a luxury personal vehicle? It only looks obvious to describe these as simple modifications, but in reality, they are full-blown engineering marvels that require the total recalibration of heavy-duty chassis to meet the standards of private road use. The conversion begins with the removal of the original cargo body and the shortening of the heavy frame rails. One can notice how the hydraulic lifts raise the massive original cabins to allow access to engines that produce thousands of pound-feet of torque. These power plants remain the heart of the machine, but the exterior is completely reshaped with custom fabricated beds and reinforced fenders. The process is only gaining momentum. Specialized paint booths are used to coat the vast surface areas of the metal in high-gloss finishes that reflect light like a mirror. It is visible how the technicians install oversized alloy wheels that often stand nearly 4 feet tall. These wheels must support the immense weight of the vehicle while providing enough traction for the modified drivetrain to deliver power to the asphalt. Transition to the next level. The interior cabins are stripped down to the bare metal and then refitted with premium leather, advanced soundproofing, and digital interfaces that contrast sharply with the industrial origin of the truck. Each vehicle is built by individuals obsessed with the physical presence and mechanical power of these machines. At first glance, such a project might seem like a purely aesthetic pursuit, but in reality, every weld and bolt must meet rigorous safety standards to ensure the truck remains street legal. Many of these beasts are fully registered for public roads, allowing them to move through traffic as towering functional sculptures. Everything only gets more complicated when integrating modern electronics into older, purely mechanical chassis. The equipment gradually moves from the assembly floor to the testing track. There, the massive engines are fired up, emitting a deep, low-frequency rumble that resonates through the surrounding structures. These conversions represent a daring intersection of heavy industry and personal expression, where the boundaries of what a pickup truck can be are pushed to their physical limit. The final adjustments are made to the suspension systems to handle the shift in weight distribution. From here, the completed machine is ready to leave the workshop and enter the open road as a unique testament to extreme fabrication. 6.5 liters is the precise displacement of the inline-6 diesel engine powering this mechanical transformation. This power plant, measuring approximately 403 cubic inches, serves as the heart of a machine that began its life as a standard Ford F-12000 heavy-duty truck. Why would anyone take a commercial vehicle designed for grueling cargo hauls and turn it into a custom pickup? At first glance, the original truck was merely a utilitarian workhorse produced in Brazil throughout the 1980s and 1990s. But in reality, the structural integrity of the chassis provided the perfect foundation for a build that exceeds the proportions of any standard consumer vehicle. The engine produces between 150 and 170 horsepower while generating over 370 pound-feet of torque. This output is channeled through a 5-speed manual transmission to a reinforced rear axle specifically prepared to manage the increased rotational mass. One can notice how the equipment gradually handles the weight of the supersized body with ease. But this is just the beginning. The suspension system has undergone a complete technical overhaul to stabilize the higher center of gravity and accommodate the massive wheel assemblies. Engineers widened the fenders and stretched the cargo bed to align with the re-sculpted muscular lines of the cabin. It is visible how the front end retains the signature bulk of the Ford F-Series, while the oversized tires add a level of physical intimidation. The process is only gaining momentum. Everything only gets more complicated when considering the legal requirements for such a radical modification. It only looks obvious that a truck of this scale would be restricted to off-road use, but in reality, this vehicle is fully registered and certified for street use. This status confirms that the technical execution meets strict safety and engineering standards. The camera glides along the exterior surfaces where the deep diesel vibrations resonate through the reinforced steel panels. Inside the cabin, the environment transitions into a space of unexpected refinement. Leather seats replace the original industrial upholstery, and a restored dashboard houses a high high-quality sound system. One can notice the sharp contrast between the brute force of the exterior and the comfort of the interior. This balance has made the build a primary attraction for international collectors at Brazilian automotive exhibitions. It does not end at this stage. 12 liters of displacement mark the next level of heavy-duty conversion as the focus shifts to an even larger platform. The Scania 111S serves as the basis for the subsequent project, pushing the boundaries of what is possible in the world of custom truck manufacturing. The transition to the next level of engineering involves adapting a semi-truck chassis into a functional pickup format. This transformation moves to the next phase of processing. 296 horsepower and over 810 pound-feet of torque define the mechanical heart of this unique conversion project. The transformation of a Scania 111S into a heavy-duty pickup truck represents a radical departure from standard automotive restoration. This specific model earned the nickname Jacare, or alligator, in the Brazilian market due to its distinctively sloped hood and aggressive forward stance. But why would anyone choose a massive commercial workhorse as the foundation for a custom pickup? The original vehicle was engineered in 1976 to move freight across entire continents, requiring a level of structural durability that most passenger trucks could never achieve. This machine still retains its legendary 11-liter inline-six diesel engine beneath the iconic elongated hood. The heavy-duty transmission remains a long-throw manual system, preserving the tactile experience of vintage long-haul trucking. One can notice how the suspension has been completely replaced with a full air ride setup, allowing the massive frame to descend toward the pavement when stationary. This modification provides a slammed aesthetic while maintaining the necessary clearance for operation. It still utilizes a rear-wheel drive configuration, though the geometry has been meticulously modified to accommodate its new shortened proportions. The process is only gaining momentum as the exterior details come into focus. At first glance, the build appears to be a futuristic factory concept, but in reality, it is a handcrafted tribute to industrial history. The tall cab and signature round headlights remain perfectly intact, anchoring the design in its 1970s heritage. A custom metal pickup bed now occupies the rear section, fabricated to flow seamlessly with the lines of the original Scania cab. This isn't a build designed for hauling cargo or performing agricultural labor. The equipment is intended for exhibition, dominating the landscape at classic truck shows and custom automotive gatherings through sheer scale. It gets more complex further on as the sensory experience of the vehicle takes over. The deep growl of the 11-liter exhaust system creates a physical vibration that stops observers in their tracks. One can notice how the polished metal of the custom bed reflects the surrounding environment, contrasting with the rugged industrial bones of the chassis. Every detail feels deliberate, from the placement of the air tanks to the reinforcement of the shortened frame. It does not end at this stage. The structure is sound, proving that the conversion was handled with deep respect for the original engineering of the Jacare. Taking a Scania and reshaping it into a pickup requires a level of technical audacity that surpasses standard customization. The proportions remain balanced, despite the massive size of the donor vehicle, leaning into its history as a long-distance hauler with pride. Transition to the next level. The next iteration of this engineering philosophy pushes the boundaries of scale and power even further. The transformation concludes this phase, leaving the legacy of the Scania 111S preserved in a form never intended by its original designers. 170 to 200 horsepower provides the mechanical foundation for this massive Ford 700 conversion. Why would a medium-duty industrial workhorse be stripped down and rebuilt as a consumer-oriented pickup truck? It seems like an impractical choice for a daily vehicle, but in reality, the heavy-duty chassis offers a level of structural rigidity and presence that standard light trucks cannot match. This specific machine began its life in the United States as a utilitarian vehicle designed for grueling tow services and urban hauling. The engine bay houses either a large displacement gasoline V8 or a 6.6-liter inline-six diesel engine. This powertrain produces 440 pound-feet of torque, ensuring the vehicle retains its original pulling capabilities despite its new aesthetic role. It gets more complex further on. A traditional long-throw manual gearbox manages the output, sending power through a rear-wheel drive configuration that features reinforced axles. One can notice how the revised suspension system supports the increased dimensions of the custom bodywork. The front end of the vehicle preserves the signature aesthetic of the classic Ford F-Series, characterized by a wide grille, squared headlights, and a long, expansive hood. While the cab remains largely in its original form, the transition to the rear reveals a custom fabricated bed made of heavy-duty sheet metal. The process is only gaining momentum. Giant flared fenders and an elevated ride ride height define the side profile, complemented by tires selected specifically to match the scale of the build. It only looks obvious that this is a show car, but in reality, this wall of steel is fully street legal and capable of navigating public roads. One can notice the equipment moving through city streets or parked at specialized custom exhibitions. Most observers fail to identify the medium-duty origins of the truck until the technical specifications are explained. Everything only gets more complicated when moving to the interior. The builder installed custom seating and an updated dashboard to ensure modern comfort within the vintage framework. It walks a precise line between the tactile feel of a classic work truck and the refined presence of a modern road cruiser. This project demonstrates that a vision for modification can turn a standard commercial tool into a significant technical showpiece. The metal sits heavy on its reinforced frame, marking the completion of this specific transformation. The journey of the heavy-duty pickup continues toward even larger scales of engineering. Thus, the Ford 700 reaches its final form as a functional display of custom fabrication. 425 horsepower is the output of the heart beating beneath the hood of this mechanical hybrid. A father and son engineering team transformed a 1992 Peterbilt 379 into a street-legal pickup truck that rivals the dimensions of a battleship. What was once an iconic long-haul vehicle has become a legend in the specialized field of extreme heavy-duty conversions. But this is just the beginning. Why would anyone combine a Class 8 semi-truck with a consumer pickup body? It seems simple to just admire the scale of the machine, but in reality, the project required the precise grafting of a Dodge Ram 3500 body onto the massive Peterbilt chassis to ensure the frame stretched perfectly across the new dimensions. One can notice how the Ram hood transitions into the Peterbilt cab with a seamless metal seam. The engine is a Caterpillar 3790-425, an inline-six diesel unit with a displacement of 14.6 liters. This translates to approximately 892 cubic inches of volume. The process is only gaining momentum as this power plant generates over 1,475 pound-feet of torque. Shifting through the gears requires significant physical effort and technical experience from the driver. The transmission is a 13-speed manual, identical to those used by long-haul truckers on open transcontinental highways. It is visible how the reinforced axles and a completely reworked suspension system manage the immense weight of the custom frame. The equipment gradually handles the transition from a heavy-duty hauler to a street-legal street king. Chrome vertical exhausts rise behind the cab, catching the light during custom truck exhibitions. Widened rear fenders and a custom metal bed extend the vehicle's profile across the road surface. The process of building this hybrid occupied months of focused labor between the father and son team. It only looks obvious to call it a truck, but in reality, it is a mechanical legacy of precision engineering. Everything only gets more complicated when the vehicle enters public spaces across the United States. Even seasoned truckers stop to observe the integration of the pickup body with the semi-truck underpinnings. The metal lays in an even layer across the custom bodywork, proving that the machine is as refined as it is massive. It does not end at this stage. A new level of heavy-duty luxury has been established through this specific hybrid construction. The truck remains fully functional for long-distance transport while maintaining the appearance of a pickup on steroids. The next stage of extreme vehicle evolution already awaits its turn in the sequence. Thus, the 1992 Peterbilt concludes its transformation into a one-of-a-kind technical achievement. 195,000 units of the Mack B series were manufactured between 1953 and 1966, cementing this model as royalty among legendary American trucks. Why would a builder choose to transform such a heavy-duty icon into a custom pickup? While most commercial vehicles of that era were destined for the scrap heap, this specific machine has been reconstructed as a rolling tribute that balances vintage aesthetics with raw muscle and mechanical elegance. Every inch of the vehicle reflects an obsessive attention to technical detail. Originally, the Mack B series utilized inline 6-cylinder diesel engines with displacements ranging from 7.0 to 11.0 liters. The most common power plant, the END 673, produced between 210 and 250 horsepower alongside massive amounts of low-end torque. This custom build preserves that mechanical essence by retaining the inline-6 diesel configuration and a manual 5-speed transmission. The power is sent to a rear-wheel drive system featuring a beefed-up axle specifically engineered to handle the truck's new life as a high-end showpiece. The cab has undergone a full restoration, maintaining its signature classic curves and the characteristic long hood that defined the original silhouette. A custom bed was fabricated from scratch to match the body lines of the 1950s era with mathematical precision. One can notice how the flared fenders and chrome wheels with tall profile tires create a street-dominating stance that honors the heritage of the brand. At first glance, the modification might seem like a simple aesthetic change, but in reality, the integration of the pickup bed required seamless metalwork to ensure the structure remained rigid. Everything only gets more complicated when analyzing the finish, which is so flawless that observers often assume the vehicle was a factory-built prototype. The camera glides along the immaculate paintwork and the deep chrome of the front grille, where not a single bolt or panel appears out of place. It is visible how the nostalgic bodywork contrasts with the modern reliability of the restored drivetrain. Wherever the vehicle is positioned, the deep rumble of the inline-six engine immediately draws attention. From vintage automotive meets to heavy-duty truck expositions, the machine earns respect through its refusal to overdo the customization. Nothing of the original soul has been lost during the transformation, as every component reflects the highest level of industrial craftsmanship. It only looks obvious that such a build would succeed, but in reality, maintaining the balance between a 1950s workhorse and a modern street machine requires hundreds of hours of labor. The heavy-duty frame rails and the reinforced suspension systems allow the truck to maintain its composure, even with the increased weight of the custom body panels. It gets more complex further on, as the interior of the cab mirrors the exterior's commitment to period-correct accuracy while providing the comfort expected of a contemporary show truck. The transition from a commercial hauler to a luxury pickup is completed with the final polishing of the oversized fuel tanks and the vertical exhaust stacks. $300,000 is the valuation of the next machine in this category, which redefines the very boundaries of what a custom pickup can achieve. The journey of the Mack B series concludes here, having successfully transitioned from a mid-century laborer to a meticulously preserved masterpiece of engineering. Thus, the steel reaches the standard ready for the further stage of its life on the road. $300,000. This is the price point that marks the transformation of a heavy commercial chassis into a unique class of automotive engineering. The Ford F650 SuperTruck occupies a territory where the industrial capabilities of a semi-truck intersect with the refined finish of a luxury limousine. Why would a manufacturer take a platform designed for medium-duty work and convert it into a private vehicle? This machine serves as a physical manifestation of mechanical dominance, retaining the rugged DNA of a commercial hauler while offering the comforts of an executive cabin. It only looks obvious to describe it as a large pickup, but in reality, the scale of the modifications places it in an entirely different category of transport. At the heart of the machine lies a 6.7-liter Power-Stroke turbo diesel inline-six engine. It generates 330 horsepower and a significant 750 pound-feet of torque. This immense rotational force is managed by a 6-speed automatic transmission, specifically calibrated to maintain stability during high-speed highway cruising and long-distance travel. One can notice how the equipment remains composed even under the strain of its own mass. But this is just the beginning. The vehicle possesses a total weight exceeding 11,000 pounds, yet it moves through urban environments and steep inclines with a level of fluidity that contradicts its physical dimensions. The reinforced chassis is inherited directly from the commercial lineup of the manufacturer, ensuring that the structural integrity is never compromised by the weight of the luxury components. High-capacity fuel tanks capable of holding 66 gallons of diesel provide a range that allows for hours of uninterrupted travel. It gets more complex further on. The exterior appearance is designed for maximum road presence through sheer scale. Elevated body panels and high-mounted headlights create a silhouette that commands the surrounding traffic. A bold chrome grille serves as the focal point of the front fascia, flanked by oversized tires that ground the massive frame. The camera glides along the polished surfaces of the exterior, highlighting the transition from a utilitarian tool to a status symbol. It seems simple to build a large truck, but in reality, balancing these dimensions with refined aesthetics requires precision engineering. Interior spaces rival those of high-end sedans in both volume and material quality. Passengers are surrounded by leather seating and can observe the sky through a panoramic sunroof, while a high-end audio system provides acoustic insulation from the diesel engine. The equipment gradually reveals its versatility as these trucks find homes in high-end business fleets and the garages of public figures. Everything only gets more complicated as owners begin to customize their units. Some integrate concert-grade sound systems into the bed, effectively effectively turning the vehicle into a mobile stage for public events. It is visible how the upgraded suspension system absorbs irregularities in the pavement, providing a ride quality that is uncharacteristic for a vehicle of this weight class. This mechanical refinement ensures that the heavy-duty components do not translate into a harsh experience for the occupants. Each component, from the oversized fuel system to the reinforced frame rails, is synchronized to deliver a cohesive experience of power. The process of personalizing these machines does not end at this stage. Those seeking the absolute peak of this aesthetic eventually encounter the Black Edition, which pushes the concept of the supertruck to its furthest logical conclusion. The vehicle stands as a testament to specialized engineering, where utility is completely replaced by extreme luxury and presence. 330 horsepower and 750 pound-feet of torque define the mechanical heart of this industrial anomaly. Why attempt to integrate a vehicle of this magnitude into an environment designed for compact hatchbacks? One might assume the physical dimensions of an American heavy-duty chassis would make European operation unfeasible, but through a systematic technical overhaul, the machine was adapted to meet the stringent regulatory frameworks of the European Union without sacrificing its inherent structural power. The process is only gaining momentum. 6.7 liters of displacement within the turbocharged diesel inline-six engine provide the necessary force to move this multi-ton platform. The 6-speed automatic transmission manages the output, while the rear-wheel drivetrain and the original steel chassis remain structurally unmodified to preserve the truck's heavy-duty capabilities. It is visible how the vehicle maintains its American scale while being subjected to deep technical recalibration. Engineers from US Classic 24 initiated the transition by addressing the fundamental discrepancies between continental standards. They performed extensive adjustments to the emission systems and replaced the entire lighting array to align with local road laws. Suspension calibration followed to ensure the elevated center of gravity remains stable on narrower thoroughfares. Transition to the next level. At first glance, the change appears purely aesthetic, but in reality, the legal certification required a total verification of every mechanical subsystem. The transformation culminated in a complete color change, where the original white factory paint was stripped and replaced by a deep black gloss finish. One can notice the sleek, intimidating texture of the paint as it dries under industrial lamps. The exterior of the Black Edition displays a calculated mechanical aggression. Raised ride height and oversized tires increase the vertical footprint, while dual exhaust stacks rise behind the cab to channel engine gases upward. All chrome accents were chemically treated or replaced with blacked out components to maintain a uniform visual profile. It gets more complex further on. Luxury dominates the internal environment of the spacious cabin despite the rugged exterior. High-spec leather seats and refined interior materials are installed to provide ergonomic comfort for the operator. Everything is tailored to create a stark contrast between the industrial exterior and the sophisticated control center. Watchers on European streets treat the arrival of the truck as a significant logistical event. In urban centers where small displacement vehicles are the norm, the presence of a lifted 650 series vehicle often results in the total suspension of local traffic flow. It is visible how other drivers pull over to document the passage of the machine with cameras. Meticulous import logistics and deep technical knowledge made this specific adaptation possible for the Polish market. But this is just the beginning of the scale. An even more extreme variant exists in the form of a 6-door edition that further extends the limits of the chassis. The material is ready to move to the next processing phase without haste. 6 doors and an extended frame define the physical boundaries of the Ford F650 Lariat Dually, a vehicle that transcends the standard definitions of light-duty transport. This specific 2006 pre-emissions model underwent a comprehensive structural transformation, lengthening the chassis to limousine proportions while maintaining the functional integrity of 6 independent entry points. Why would a heavy-duty commercial platform be stretched to such extreme dimensions? A standard truck focuses on utility, but this modification integrates the capacity of a small recreational vehicle with the mechanical resilience of an industrial hauler, creating a presence that dwarfs conventional consumer SUVs. The engineering required to balance such a massive wheelbase relies on a full air ride suspension system that manages the oscillations of the elongated frame. One can notice how the entire chassis lowers toward the pavement when the vehicle is stationary, a process known as kneeling. This is made possible by the integration of air bellows across the front axle, the rear dually assembly, and the cabin mounting mounting points. It only looks obvious to provide comfort for the passengers, but in reality, this multi-point air system is critical for preventing the structural stress that would otherwise affect a rigid frame of this length. The equipment gradually adjusts the pressure to ensure the ride quality mimics a luxury sedan despite the massive unsprung weight of the dual rear wheels and heavy-duty tires. Under the hood, the mechanical heart consists of a 6.7-liter Power-Stroke turbo diesel engine. This power plant generates 330 horsepower and delivers over 750 pound-feet of torque to the drivetrain. The process is only gaining momentum as the torque is managed by an Allison push-button transmission. This commercial-grade automatic gearbox replaces standard consumer units to provide the durability needed for high-torque applications. It is visible how the operator selects gears via a digital interface, allowing the heavy machinery to shift through its range with the precision of a long-haul freight truck. Custom trim and premium materials define the interior environment, which functions as a high-capacity mobile lounge. Leather seating and ambient lighting systems are installed throughout the cabin to accommodate a full crew or a private party within the extended displacement of the 6-door layout. At first glance, the vehicle appears to be a specialized showpiece, but in reality, it remains fully street legal and capable of standard road operation. High-end expositions and promotional events frequently utilize this platform due to its extreme scale and the visual impact of its oversized dually fenders. Exclusivity drives the demand for such platforms among high-profile entrepreneurs who require a combination of armored aesthetics and massive interior volume. The truck serves as a heavy-duty towing platform or a high-visibility shuttle, capable of hauling significant loads without sacrificing its calibrated stance. Transition to the next level. While the 6-door F650 represents the pinnacle of North American custom builds, other regions have developed their own unique interpretations of the Ford heavy-duty line. In Brazil, a distinct evolution known as the Ford F-Max took a different approach to large-scale automotive design. The molten transition from standard utility to extreme customization continues to redefine the limits of the Ford chassis. 220 horsepower is the output generated by the specialized power plant of the Ford F-Max, a vehicle originating from Brazilian engineering. Why would a manufacturer merge a heavy-duty commercial truck chassis with the aesthetics of a passenger pickup? It only looks obvious to call this a simple modification, but in reality, the firm Tropical Cabins executed a complex structural marriage between the Ford Cargo 1722 industrial frame and a body inspired by the Ford F250. This results in a South American super pickup designed for high-capacity hauling and visual impact. The process is only gaining momentum as the mechanical specifications are examined. A 6.1-liter inline-6 diesel engine, displaced at approximately 372 cubic inches, serves as the heart of the machine. It produces more than 590 pound-feet of torque, ensuring the vehicle can manage significant loads. One can notice how the reinforced rear-wheel drive system occupies the space beneath the custom bodywork. The power is managed through a manual transmission featuring either 5 or 6 speeds, depending on the specific custom configuration. It seems simple to categorize this as a luxury toy, but the structural integrity remains purely industrial. The body design utilizes a wide front end, an expansive bold grille, and aggressive headlight assemblies to command a presence on the road. A massive custom cargo bed is integrated into the rear, engineered to balance aesthetic appeal with genuine utility. The equipment gradually rises on a lifted suspension, widening the stance of the vehicle until it resembles a miniature American semi-truck. But this is just the beginning of its functional capabilities. Farmers, transport business owners, and specialized collectors frequently employ these machines for rigorous daily labor. The interior environment provides a stark contrast to the rugged exterior, featuring factory-installed air conditioning and a completely redesigned dashboard. One can notice the plush seating arrangements designed for long-distance comfort during heavy hauling. Everything only gets more complicated when considering the rarity of the build, as every single unit was manufactured strictly to a custom order. Only a small number of these units were ever produced, making the Ford F-Max one of the rarest automotive conversions available on the global market. Some of these vehicles have crossed borders into Paraguay and Bolivia, where they have transitioned into the status of highly prized collector's items. It is visible how the craftsmanship maintains its value even after years of heavy service in the field. The vehicle represents a peak in the evolution of form and functional utility within its class. The final vehicle will challenge the very concept of what a pickup can be. Thus ends one of the key stages of specialized vehicle production. 40 million rubles is the staggering price tag attached to a machine that effectively dismantles the traditional definition of a pickup truck. This sum, which converts to over $400,000 depending on current exchange rates, represents the cost of transforming a heavy-duty industrial platform into a 6-door luxury titan. Why would an owner invest the equivalent of a high-end mansion into a single vehicle? At first glance, the project seems like an exercise in pure excess, but in reality, it is a complex engineering feat that merges the architecture of a war machine with the interior of a private jet. The International 7500 serves as the foundational skeleton for this massive build. This specific platform is typically utilized for military transport, emergency response units, or the most demanding industrial tasks. Under the hood, the factory configuration provides diesel engines with a displacement of up to 12 liters. These power plants generate between 330 and 370 horsepower. One can notice the immense mechanical scale as the engine produces over 1,200 pound-feet of torque. The process is only gaining momentum as the power is managed through a 5 or 6-speed automatic transmission. The vehicle employs a 4x4 all-wheel drive system to ensure it can navigate any terrain despite its enormous mass. It gets more complex further on. The original cab has been surgically cut and stretched to accommodate 6 full-size doors. One can notice how the custom bodywork aligns perfectly with the reinforced frame. The truck bed is not a standard component, but a custom-built unit scaled specifically to match the proportions of the expanded chassis. It is visible how the suspension has been lifted and structurally strengthened to support the additional weight of the luxury conversion. The tires are enormous, creating a visual presence that dominates the road. Inside the cabin, the transition to the next level is complete. High-end leather upholstery covers the seating, while premium trim and high-tech control systems fill the dash. Everything only gets more complicated as one examines the space, which offers enough room to function as a rolling lounge. This particular unit was commissioned for a client in Russia, where it quickly evolved into a symbol of wealth and unapologetic power. The equipment gradually moves through city streets or stands outside luxury hotels, drawing immediate attention to its sheer scale. It only looks obvious to call this a truck, but in reality, the boundary between a heavy-duty work vehicle and an elite transport has completely vanished. The molten stream of creativity and capital has resulted in a machine that stands alone in its class. The transformation concludes by leaving only the raw mechanical might of the original bones beneath a layer of extreme luxury. From here, the vehicle represents the absolute limit of what can be achieved with a heavy-duty industrial chassis. The project reaches its final form as a functional, rolling testament to engineering without compromise. 10 colossal machines represent the absolute peak of mechanical ambition, where standard boundaries have completely disappeared. Why do these massive vehicles exist beyond the constraints of traditional utility? At first glance, the sheer scale seems impractical, but in reality, they serve as rolling declarations of engineering capability and individual personality. This transition from functional transport to high-end custom machinery is driven by a combination of creative vision and significant financial investment. Everything only gets more complicated as the builds range from private projects to international luxury commissions. Backyard father and son teams work alongside professional custom shops to produce these unique pickups. One can notice how the equipment gradually transforms from a standard heavy-duty frame into a specialized vehicle worth 6 figures. The process is only gaining momentum. Each unit challenges the established definition of excess by moving one step further into the realm of extreme modification. Utility vehicles typically serve to blend into the background of industrial environments, but this is just the beginning. These specific trucks were engineered to turn heads and establish symbols of status through sheer physical presence. It only looks obvious that a truck should prioritize cargo, but in reality, these machines prioritize the narrative of power and mechanical skill. One can notice the way the chrome accents and custom suspension components catch the light as the trucks move. The equipment gradually demonstrates that even the most rugged industrial tools can be repurposed into icons of beautiful madness. The engineering process for these machines involves thousands of hours of labor and precise technical calculations. It is visible how the reinforced axles and custom body panels integrate with the original chassis. This requires a deep understanding of structural integrity and automotive design. The process concludes this phase, opening the road to the final realization of these unforgettable mechanical giants. What specific heavy-duty platform would serve as the foundation for a new custom pickup project if resources were unlimited? The choice between a military military-grade chassis or a modern commercial hauler determines the entire direction of the build. One can notice the potential in every large-scale vehicle to become something more complex and powerful. From here, the transformation moves to the next phase of processing as new ideas for outrageous machines continue to emerge from the global community of builders. Thus ends one of the key stages of exploring the world of extreme mechanical engineering.